Hi everybody, it's Michelle and I'm here today to share Creative Vision's new release stamps with you. They came out today on the 16th and I'm really excited to be working with them this week at my blog. I'm going to feature Creative Vision's new release stamp every day this week at my blog. And the reason I'm happy to share them with you this week is because they're great stamp sets and they think ahead to the fall and Christmas. So if you're a Christmas in July person, you're trying to plan your cards, this is a release that you would love. Halloween, Christmas, and then there's another cute set right in here. But the card that I'm going to actually make today is a great simple card. It allows you to do some alcohol marker coloring, and it's really a great card for simple coloring with a lot of detail, so that if you make your cards in bulk, you need to make multiples of a card for the holidays, you might want to consider getting this set because the coloring is really easy. It doesn't involve a lot of blending, but yet it's going to look like a card that you really put your heart and soul into because it's got a lot of great detail, all coming from the stamp set. So I'm going to flip the camera down and we're going to get started. I'm going to show you the stamp sets and then we're going to make a card together. Okay. Alrighty, so I really want to show you the stamp sets. I know that once you see them, you're really going to love them. So they have 4 new sets on the July release, and the first one is, it's not holiday related, but it's adorable. It's called Stick With It, and it's got some really great images, and I love it. It's snail mail, and this is such a great image to color, and you'll be seeing me work with this week on the blog, creating a couple of great cards with a few of the images from this set. And then there's a Halloween set that is just too cute. It's called Pet Monsters, and the little animals are dressed in Halloween costumes. You have a cat that's dressed as candy corn. You have this guy dressed as a dinosaur monster. You have the bat with a cape on like he's a vampire. And then you have this little raccoon who's dressed up as Frankenstein because he's got the little bolts coming out of his neck and some stitches on his body. There's some great sentiments here, and again, you'll see me working with this set this week. Another great set in this release is this little elf set. It is so adorable. It's called Elf This. 2 of the sentiments say Elf This and Elf That. The images are a lot of fun to color. If you like a little glitter on your cards, a little sparkle, there's great opportunities for that because there's some snow, so you could always highlight them with some Wink Stella or some other sparkly application. So there's 4 little elves here. They're all dealing with the snow. A couple of them look like they're working really hard. This guy's having fun, and you'll see me make a few cards with this set this week. But today we're going to be working with this one called Beary Merry. Very simple coloring. We're going to use this image, we're going to create background paper with this stamp, and we're going to use the sentiment. So this is another great set for the holidays, and this is a set that I think if you're a person who creates in multiples, you might want to take a look at this set and the card that we're going to make today. So I'm going to show you the card now, and again, it's with this set, and this is the card that I created. So what we're going to do is I'll be walking you through this card making step by step. I'll be giving you all the dimensions for the layers because you have a double matted layer here, and you have a single mat on the image layer. We're going to create our own background with the 2 trees that are in the set, and we're going to use the bears as the focal image. We'll color the image very simply in gray. I'm using this lovely sentiment that says, may the blessings from above shine on you with peace and love this Christmas. I just think that's a great set. I used a little Wink Stella down here to give some glistening for the snow, a little bit on the tree branches. I matted. I used a rectangle die to cut out the image. It's a stitch die from Beary Merry, and it's a simple card that I think you're really going to love. So let me give you the dimensions of all the layers. I'm going to tell you the dimensions, and you're welcome to pause your video so that you can then go and cut your layers or jot them down. Okay, so the image of the measurements are going to be, you're just going to cut a 1/4 piece of cardstock to stamp the image on. We're going to cut that down with the die, so you don't have to worry. Just a 1/4 sheet, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then we're going to create the background, and for that you're going to cut your cardstock to be, let me get this right now, I don't want to make a mistake. You're going to cut it to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then the green mat is going to be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The blue mat that goes under the background is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, like I said, the bare layer we don't need to know about. But you are going to need a blue mat for behind the bare image, the main image. So it's going to be the 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. Okay, you're going to cut a small little piece of cardstock for the sentiment, and that's going to be 1 1/8 by 2 inches, and the blue mat behind the sentiment is 1 2/8, which is 1 1/2 actually, 1 1/4 by 2 1/8. So the blue mat for behind the sentiment is 1 1/4 by 2 1/8. Okay, so now we can get started. I'm going to stamp out the image with my Misty, and I'll show you how simple the coloring is. Okay, so I already have my stamp in here. I'm just going to put this down. I'm going to use Memento ink today, but another great choice is the Gina K Amalgam ink. It's a wonderful ink, and it's good for coloring with pencils, with markers, with alcohol markers. So if you have the amalgam, you want to use that, that's great. But for now, I'm going to stamp this image out with Memento. So I have it in my Misty. I positioned my paper. I positioned my stamp. I'm just inking this up really good. I made sure my stamp was clean because I've used it already. And I'm going to stamp it out now. I kind of centered it because I want to leave myself enough room, because remember, we're going to put this through the Big Shot and we need to cut this out later. So I wanted to give myself enough room all the way around. So it's a little bit in the center. I'm just going to give it a good rub to make sure the ink transfers onto the paper, and I have my image. So now here's the fun part. If you like to color but you're afraid to color, or if you already color and you're really good at it, this is just a great fun image to color with. I have a lot of Copic markers. I have the Spectrum Noir. I have a lot of different things I could color with, but I remembered that I haven't used my Dick Blick alcohol markers in a long time. So I got these out. They're really affordable. If you're new to coloring, this is a really great set for you to think about getting, because it has 96 markers in it, and you can blend so many things with it. They're divided into 4 collections. I'm not affiliated with this company at all. I'm just sharing it with you because it's a great set of markers, and I think I paid about $79 or $89 for the whole set. So today I'm going to be working with the grays from this collection, and we're going to be coloring this image, and you're going to see how simple it is. So I chose 2 light grays that go well from this collection, and what I'm going to do is, I'm doing this upside down, so bear with me. I'm giving the bears a quick layer of the lighter of the 2 grays. Be careful not to go over the, he's holding a little planet Earth in his hands. You don't want to color that. And you see how quickly I'm doing this. It's really, really very easy. These 4 bears are a cinch to color. I'm just going over them, making sure to stay in the lines. Just because I'm going fast doesn't mean I'm being sloppy. So I'm giving them a little coat of gray, making sure everything is covered. They're large images, so they're really easy to be quick with. Okay, so they've all got their light coat of gray now. I'll set that marker aside. Now I'm taking the next one, and I'm just going to add the darker color just in some of the areas where there would be, you want to just define this image a little bit. You don't want to leave it all light gray, because it's just going to kind of blend into the backgrounds of white, and it's just, then it's not even like you colored it. So if you notice, I'm just giving them some little highlights of color around areas where there might be shadows or lines, just to define them a little. Okay, you see how easy this is. So if you're afraid of coloring, don't be afraid with this. This is a great image for people who are beginning to color. I don't know if you can see the difference in the grays on here, but I think you can. I'll hold it up a little closer to the camera so you can see it. I'm just adding a little more here, and I'll go over the ears because that could be a little darker, and the tips of the paws. Get a little highlight in the ears down here by his little paws and his feet, and then the top of his head. So now you have a little contrast. And then, I don't know if you can see, let me hold it up for you. There's a little contrast in color. Okay, now I'm just going to take the original, the light gray that I started out with, and I'm just going to go over it again, just so you don't see those defined lines of the darker gray. I'm going to blend them in a little bit. I still want them to show because that's my shadows and definition, but I'm just blending them very quickly. I mean, this is really easy coloring. Okay, you see I'm almost done now with the coloring part of this. I'm just going over where I added the darker colors, make sure they're all blended. This little guy. Okay, so there you go. Your bears are colored, and you can see now they kind of pop off the page a little bit because, you know, otherwise they would have just blended in and you would have had nothing really to show that they were colored. So then I'm going to take a blue that I chose from the same markers, and I'm just going to color in the parts of the little planet Earth that he's holding, the little world, so that it looks like it's colored. And then I chose a bright gold yellow color, and I'm just going to give a quick little accent of color to the star that the bear is going to hang on the tree. And guess what? Your image is colored already, and that took me all of, what, 5 minutes. Then I'm going to take the lighter again of the grays, and I'm just going to go around the whole image just to give it a little definition around the image. Some people like a darker shadow, but I just want to differentiate a little bit between the colors of the bears and the white background. So guess what? When I get down to the bottom here, the coloring is done. Completely finished. Okay? So now, here's what I used. I used two gray markers, the blue and the yellow. The star we're going to go over later on when the card is put together with Wink of Stella to give it a little shine, and we're going to add some snow, but I want to do that at the end because it's wet and it has to dry. So I'm going to set aside my coloring things, and I'm now going to take this image and I'm going to turn it around so it's facing me, just because it's easier for me to stamp. And I just went through my ink collection, and I picked out a good old Stampin' Up! Color, Pear Pizzazz, which is really great for trees and greenery. And I'm going to ink up the largest tree, give it some good ink, and I'm going to stamp it kind of in the position that the bear would be hanging the ornaments on the tree. So I've got that there. Press it down. Good, because it's a light color, and so there we go. And then I'm going to use the smaller tree on the other side. Okay, and I'm going to bring that one up here as well. Okay, so you've got your two trees now and your bears. So this is really kind of ready. It's like kind of done now. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the die. Let me put my ink away. I don't want to get ink all over everything. And we're going to position the die over this image. You're going to lose part of the trees, but we want it that way. We want it to look like the trees are going off of this. You don't want everything so centered. So I'm positioning so I get the whole image. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of painter's tape that I've already put on my hand to get rid of some of the stickiness. And I'm going to put it on here to hold the die in place. And another piece of tape to hold the die in place up here. Okay, so now I just want to check, make sure everything's straight, being that I was working upside down. And I'm going to take my Big Shot, and I'm going to put it through here. I'll roll it back and forth 1 or 2 times to make sure that it cuts well. And I just want to straighten this out a little. Okay, so now we're going to put this in here. And I love the detail on the stitch dies. It's nice. Sometimes I like a straight cut, just a straight edge, but sometimes it's really nice to have some little detail on something. So let me go through one more time. Alrighty. You could do this in any die cutting machine you have. You have the Cuttlebug, you have the Gemini, whichever machine you prefer. I just happen to have my Big Shot handy. So that's what I'm using today. Okay, so let's see. How did these guys turn out? Oh, it would be great if I took the tape off, don't you think? Okay. tape over here, and then I want to pop the image out of the die. You can hear it. It's really in there because those little stitch lines were embossed onto the layer already. Okay, so can you see? It has all little stitch lines all around the edge. Alrighty, so now we're ready to kind of, believe it or not, start. Oh, we have to make the background. Wait a minute. Let's make our background layer. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We have our piece of cards. Remember, we had these 3 layers that you've prepared now. This is where you're going to create the background. That's the layer underneath the bears, where you see trees. So we're going to take this, and I already had the trees on blocks, and I have my green ink handy. So now we can create our background. Now, it's up to you. Some people, when they create a background, they like to kind of go this way, that way. For this one, I wanted all the trees upright. But you create the background as you'd like to. The main thing here that I want to convey to you is that this stamp set has these trees in it, and that they're very versatile, that you can create a background with them. So I'm going to put a tree here, and then I'm going to use a little one. Okay, put a little tree here off the page, and I'm going to do another large one over here, and I'm going to put a small one on this side. Okay, and then we go back to the large one. So you see, I'm just using the stamp to repeat the stamping to create a background. The big one is good for filling up most of the space, but if you want to put the small ones like I did, you can do that also. Now I'm going to fill in a little bit. Put the small one over here, and a small one up here, and the edge of a small one right there. And I'm even going to go like this in this spot, just to get a little color in here. Okay, so we've created our background, and now the next thing we'll stamp, we're going to get all the parts and pieces ready first. So now what we'll do is we'll stamp our sentiments. We'll get that ready, and then it will really be time to put it all together. So once again, I'm going to use my MISTI. Excuse my paper inside the MISTI. You can see I use it a lot. I really should change it. Now we're going to just position this here and here. I have my sentiment ready to go. I'm going to put that in the center. Make sure it's nice and straight. Can you see what I'm doing? Okay. So I think it's in a good position. Now I'm just going to get my Memento ink again and ink this up. I love the sentiment. I think it's very sweet, and it's just a nice holiday sentiment. It kind of says it all, so that's why I chose it to work with this card. Okay, so now we're going to get the sentiment piece ready. And there you go. So this is ready now. Let me just make sure I like how it looks. Okay, so that's good. I just want to trim this a little bit. Just trimming this a tiny bit. It has a little bit too much white on the end. Okay, that's better. I just took a little tiny bit off the bottom. Okay, so now that's done. So all of our stamping is done. So guess what? It's time to put the card together. Let's start by putting the sentiment together. I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back of this. And I'm going to center this so that there's an even mat all around. Okay. I think I still want to trim that a little bit. So let me just go back to this. Just felt like you need to take a little bit off of there. Okay, so with taking a little bit off of there, that means I have to now trim up my mat. And that could be done in 2 seconds with the scissor. So I'm just going to trim my mat. Okay, so we have our sentiments ready. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put together our layers for the background. So we have our 3 layers here. So first I'm going to center the trees, and put them onto the blue piece. Okay. I hope that while I'm doing this, you're thinking about how you're going to color the bears and how you're going to make it look awesome. Okay, so we're going to center this now, and that layer is ready. Now we want to put it on the next layer. Okay, so here we go. I'm always generous with my adhesive because I always fear that somebody's going to open up a card that was sent to them and a layer might separate. So I always go a little extra on the adhesive. Just centering this now. Okay, so that's it. Now we're going to mat the bears, and I do need to cut the cardstock for that, so you'll have to bear with me while I do that. I need to get my cardstock out for that layer. Oh, where did I put them? Okay, so I need, for the bears, the bear piece is a little over 3 inches by a little over 4 3/8. So I'm going to measure this to 3 3/4 by 4 5/8. So let me do 4 5/8 and 3 3/4. Oh, that's too big. Wait a minute. 3 1/8. So a little over 3 1/4. I'm sorry. Okay, so now we have our matte layer for the bears. I still want to trim that down a little bit. I went a little over 3 1/4. Okay. So let's get our adhesive and put the bears onto their matte layer. And that's really going to make them pop between the stitching, the coloring, and the blue background that kind of matches the color that I used on the little earth that he's holding. It's all going to start to come together. So here's your matte layer now. I made this mat a little bit larger because I wanted a thicker mat. So that's ready to go. So now you see how it's coming together because this is all going to be put together now. Right? But what we want to do is we want this layer to pop up. So first let's get the background piece that's all matted already onto the card base. So this is an A2 card, which is really popular with us card makers. Seems like we all make A2 cards. I've already cut the cardstock to be an A2 card, so it's, you know, scored and folded already. And I'm just going to position this onto the card front, and I'm going to make sure that I give a nice little border of white all around and centered. So here we go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I want this to pop up a little bit because there's not a lot of embellishments on this card. So what I did was I took a little piece of fun foam, I cut it to the size but smaller, and because it's bright pink and I don't want anyone that receives the card to see pink under there, I'm just going to take a quick moment to take a dark marker. You could do with a Sharpie, you could do with anything, and I'm just going to trace around the edges of this. And by going around the edges, I'm now creating an illusion of darkness, so if somebody looks under the edge, they're not going to see bright pink. Okay, so now I'm going to take some score tape. Even though this is self-adhesive, I like to put a little bit of score tape on the back because I feel it gives a little bit of an extra stick to the foam. So I'm just going to put that on here. I put it sideways because this way it's not a straight line and it adheres from corner to corner. And then I'm going to take the sticky side and I'm going to mount it on the back of this image piece. Okay, and then I'm just going to take, I don't use my ATG for this because I really feel with the foam you really do need score tape. So I just quickly put 2 pieces of score tape on either side, and then because I'm a little obsessed with adhesive, I put 2 lines down the middle. I'm a little bit over the edge with that, and I'm just going to pull this off and position the bears in the middle. I'm going to turn it around so I do an even job, and then I'll show it to you. Okay, so let's get these guys in place. Okay, so here they are. They're in place. Now, I was telling you before about the clear Wink of Stella. So I have gold Wink of Stella here. This is the clear one. This is the gold one. What I'm going to do with the gold, I'm going to do the gold last actually. But I'm going to take the clear and I'm just going to put some snow on the ground around the bears. It's just a little bit of a sparkle that will denote that there's something on the ground. It's not colored, it's not dark, it's just a little bit of glitter. And then I just quickly go over the tree branches to give them a little sparkle. Okay, it's just a very random, you're not coloring the whole tree. That's my Jackson over there barking. He must be getting excited thinking about what Santa's going to bring him because I'm talking about Christmas. Okay, and then I'm going to take the gold and I'm just going to go over the star. Don't squeeze the barrel of this because you'll get a big flow of it. Just dab it on, and when this dries you'll have nice sparkle on your star. Okay, so now we had our image piece ready already, and now what we need is we're going to mount it here. But you're going to have this part over here that's kind of raised, so it's up to you. If you want to put dimensionals under there, you can, but you really don't need to because it's such a small piece that overhangs. So I'm going to put adhesive on this, but I'm going to leave no adhesive on this little end because that's what hangs over. So I'm just putting a good amount of adhesive on here, and I'm going to place my sentiment right here. And guess what? The card is done. So this card was created with the wonderful little bear set, this one. That's in the new release now this week. So I used the little stack of bears, I used the large and small tree, and then I also put the sentiment here, Maddie. So you can see that you can make a great card. You could do these quickly because it's easy coloring and it's really not much. If you cut all your pieces before, make a stack of all your matte layers, it's like assembly line. You'll be able to make a whole collection of holiday cards. But I hope that you enjoyed seeing me make this card today. I really was excited to share this with you. It's July, so guess what? We have to start thinking about Christmas in July. So here you go, holiday card. I'm in the Christmas mode now. New release of stamps from Creative Visions. You can find them on their website, but if you go to my blog and follow along this week, I'm going to do a giveaway. Each set, I'll have 4 winners at the end of the week, so if you leave a comment on each blog post, you'll have an entry for each day, and then at the end of the week, I'll do a recap of the week's cards, and I will pick 4 winners. So I hope that you visit the blog every day to keep up on all of the new cards with Creative Visions' new release. The blog is bellissimacards.blogspot.com. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me to make this card today, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing the process to create a card that looks like it has a lot of detail, but was really not difficult to make. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time, and I'll see you over at my blog. Thanks. Bye-bye.